Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 31st of July 2013. So in today's news we have quite a few things. First of all, there's some talk about the item Squish, and some talk about the RPPM Trinkets, and finally, a bit more of a discussion about utility and how I think Blizzard are making some key errors in the way they balance classes in regards to utility. So the first thing I want to talk about is the item Squish. Now, there's quite a lot of talk about this in the forums, and it spurned off an interview Ghostcrawler made perhaps a few days ago, maybe a week ago, in Korea. Which a lot of people took to meaning that the item Squish will happen the next expansion. So first of all, he said that he doesn't know if it'll happen, it may or may not, but it certainly is quite an attractive option, given the numbers are getting a little bit ridiculous. The way things are scale, next expansion we will be doing millions of damage per second. Maybe it's only 1 million, but at the end of the day, if you have people that are solidly pulling off 300k damage, sure, Heroic Raiders are even pulling off 350k damage on Throne of Thunder fights. Well, if this is, if that's the mid-tier of this expansion, next expansion, that'll be millions. And I think, really, adding that extra zero, you're getting to orders of magnitude that are just hard to understand and clunky, so I do think they need to do something. Now, the main solution they had talked about in the past was mega damage. So instead of doing 200k damage, you would do 200 mega damage. And really what this does is all the numbers in the background may stay the same, but the way they're displayed to you, makes it more palatable, more easy. Now they're worried that it'll seem a little bit silly because, mega damage. And I actually think it's weird. It's as if they're misrepresenting their own argument when they call it mega damage, because it doesn't have to be called that. You can just call it damage. You can have all the numbers in the background function the same and just change the front end, and it won't look silly, because damage will be damage. The system may be known as mega damage, but it's not like, it has to pop up, oh, you just crit for 200 mega damage. No, it's you crit for 200 damage, and that's fine. And perhaps the numbers are a little bit more specific underneath, but I actually think this mega damage system does have potential, and it's really a pity they're misrepresenting their own arguments so well, because they really are, which is actually rather weird. But anyway, there's a lot of people also worried about soloing older content, and they've said that don't worry, this will be untouched and you will be able to go back and solo old raids. And that's important, especially since there are pets you can get, transmog gear you can get, and that kind of thing. So yeah, the item Squish, it's a thing that may or may not happen. Now, next up we have RPPM Trinkets. So they think that RPPM Trinkets are having a bit of a negative effect on the game. And the reason this is because they all pretty much proc right off the bat in a fight. So it makes the pull way more important than it should be, because all your trinkets are going off, you need to capitalize on all these buffs instantly and do crazy DPS that will sort of hold you off for the rest of the fight. And pretty much what they're doing is they're changing the amount of time that is banked up before the pull. So essentially the way it would have worked is there was lots of time banked up before the pull, the time since the last proc, which would mean that once you pulled, you'd nearly get a guaranteed proc. So they're changing it now so that every RPPM trinket, its time since the last proc will be set to 90 seconds when you pull. So the frequent procs will be less likely to go off, and the powerful ones will still have a high chance. That's what I've sort of inferred off the blue post. I think it's well explained. Anyway, it's a pretty good change actually, because it means the damage is more spread out through the fight, and it means that the pull is not absolutely ridiculous. Now, as a hunter, the pull is really ridiculous for me, because I have to manage I have to manage 2 buffs, which I then reset, apply again, precise timings of things, my potion, pre-potting, using dive and dash on my pet. This is all stuff you have to do in a matter of seconds. Hunters are a little bit messy at the minute, to say the least, and there's probably more on that later, but yeah, I think this is a good change, and it should balance out raiding and make just the fight seem a little bit better. Now, next up we have utility stuff. Now, this discussion did spurn off from them talking about hunters, but really it applies to all classes, and pretty much everyone's concerns. So, essentially, when people see the DPS is low, and Blizzard said that when people say that their DPS is low, that they're asking for more utility to compensate. Now, I think this is actually a bit of a problem in Blizzard's, or at least Ghostcrawler's perspective. When this happens, people aren't really saying that my DPS is low, so give me more utility to compensate. They're saying my DPS is low, given the fact that I bring less stuff to the raid, it should be higher. And I think, that makes sense. It's not them asking for more utility, it's asking for more damage so that it's in balance with everything else. And it just really isn't what they were saying, what Blizzard were saying, especially for hunters. They're a good example. So pretty much our argument is that in comparison to other pure DPS classes, we are lower in DPS and don't bring enough utility to justify this decrease. So in this situation, we're asking for more DPS so that the disparity is acceptable to raid leaders, not more utility. Hunters have been a complete mess this expansion. I mean, it's been ridiculous. Our class has been clunky, annoying, the balancing between specs has been ridiculously bad to the point where marksmanship is impossible to play raiding. It's just been very strange, and it just seems like Blizzard don't really have a clue what they're doing. Maybe in the next expansion they'll have a chance to get at some semblance of balance, but yeah. Now later on they went to say that Drums of Rage, which provides a weak heroism, should solve a part of the problem for some raids, and I think this is a complete lack of misunderstanding, because all this talk and dialogue was in the context of normal raiding. Now these drums will be 10 to 15% less haste than heroism, so that would be a 25 to 30% buff. Now, if at all possible, given the sign-ups and the people in your guild, raid leaders will not use this. They will get other people. Hunters will have to swap pets mid-fight to use Ancient Hysteria, and maybe a DPS could be bent so Shaman or Mage could come, and that's messy. Heroism's a very important ability, especially in tough enraged fights. A lot of people may not get just how knife-edged some things can be. Take Primordius. The first time we killed him, we were 4 seconds off the enrage. With Blizzard's soft heroism sort of fix in the way of this buff, that would mean we would die, and it would have nothing to do with player skill, nothing to do with effort, purely down to composition. Now, I know composition is important, and they need to keep all the classes feeling different, but I think there's further balancing that needs to be done, and ways to work out this system. Right now, it's funny, they're talking about 25 being so much more logistically hard, and I would say that it is logistically more hard, but I don't really think it's to the degree that they're saying. They have to deal with things like entropy and people leaving and, all that stuff. But what 10 man raiding has to deal with is, you may not get all the buffs, you may have to bench people, there's some tougher decisions in there, whereas in 25, everything's covered. So, yeah, it's weird. I know this has kind of got a little bit ranty, but I think it's probably worth saying, especially for those of you who are raiders, and it'll be interesting to see what you think. But anyway, that's it for the show. Today's question is, what do you think of the item Squish? What way would you do it, and what do you think of the mega damage method? It would be great to see what you think, and I will be chatting to the comments to anyone who replies, so do reply. And that's it for the show. Please like if you like, and subscribe if you want to see some more, and I'll see you next time.